Over to you, Achit.
Okay, so I'm on mute. So I guess, there's a few young people here with us, and I get it. You might be like, you know, cozy in your house at this time and things like that. But I guess, if I can invite you to like, just show us your face once, just to show the representation of all the young people are actually here with us today. Just give us a wave, and you're more than free to like put yourself on the young people. So yeah, you're more than welcome then to put yourself back on, whatever you're comfortable with. So before I start, I would like to share, an acknowledgement that is quite, traditional to YCW. Like, and just to mention that I'm meeting today from Wurundjeri land. So as we enter this space, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all stand. Their footsteps were here. And all we stand, their footsteps were here long before our shoe prints. Their handprints were here centuries before our buildings rose. Their hearts loved and broke in this country generations before our violence, settlements, and sorrow. Their cultural authority and tradition were established long before our communities of relationships and leadership came to be. We call upon their spirit ancestors and our own ancestors who have gone to God to be with us as we share, learn, and celebrate together. May we walk gently on this land.
Thank you so much, Achit. I'm going to hand it over to Ashish to do a reflection. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So I just want to give you a brief reflection on the day. So I kind of like took it out from the Catholic Outlook. So I'm just going to read it out. So on May 1, 1886, the thousands of workers across the United States staged a major union strike and demonstration calling for an 8 hours workday with the slogan 8 hours day with no pay cut in pay. A few days later, still in midst of strike, laborers continued a protest in Chicago and met outside the industrial plant. While the protest was peaceful in nature, at the end of the workday, a group of workers were charged and strike breaker, and a police opened fire, killing 2 workers. This prompted local people to stage another rally on May 4th, printing flyers that said, "Working men, arm yourself and appear in full force." The rally started out peacefully, but near the end of the night, a homemade bomb was launched at police officers. The police fired at the crowd in the response, and by end of the night, 7 policemen were killed, along with 4 workers. Dozens were injured, and then the event became known as a Haymarket massacre. The event fueled tensions at the time, and by 1889, the International Socialist Conference declared May 1 as International Workers' Day, commemorating the massacre. Every year after that, May 1 was given more significance, being called May Day, and a day used for a labor protest. On May 1, 1894, there occurred another set of violent riots in Cleveland, Ohio, which again spurred the International Socialist Conference to work forcefully for workers' rights. From then on, May 1 was continually used as a vehicle to promote workers' rights. So this is from the viewpoint of the International Labor Day. Why do we celebrate? But from the Catholic perspective, it's also a really important day for all people of a Catholic faith. It also happens to be a feast of Saint Joseph the Worker. So in 2019, Pope Francis dedicated that year for the feast of Saint Joseph, and he's decided that year to be dedicated to him. He did so after he saw how much pressure coronavirus was putting on many families through anxiety, unemployment, and fractured relationships. He emphasized on St. Joseph's role as a father of his family. As for him, St. Joseph was a carpenter who earned an honest living to provide for his family. From him, Jesus learned the value, the dignity, and then the joy of what it means to eat bread that is the fruit of one's own labor. In our own day, when employment has once more become a burning social issue and unemployment at times reaches record level, even in nations that for decades have enjoyed a certain degree of prosperity, there is a renewed need to appreciate the importance of dignified work, of which St. Joseph is an exemplary patron. So today, in this webinar, we want to dedicate the day to all the young workers, and we're featuring the story of young workers who would be sharing their story of struggle as they enter the world of work. So I would like to request you all to open all your ears, heart and ears, and be open-minded in terms of having a conversation so we can come up with an action later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Ashish. I'm going to start with an introduction of all the speakers. Rachel's raised her hand. Over to you, Rachel.
Oh, that's not right hand, that's like I just clapping.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I'll learn the difference. I'm sorry. I'll start with myself. So for those who don't know me, I'm Frederick. I'm the YEO for Perth. I'll be speaking today on some experiences that I've been having. Another speaker we have is Harlan, who's a leader here in Perth. He's currently 15 and still studying. We then have Talia, who's a year 12 student, based in Melbourne. Okay. Yep. We also have Anne, who's based in Melbourne. She's an international student, also YEO in Melbourne. Then we have Yolanda, who's a year 12 student, also a YCS leader in her local parish. I believe we're also hearing from Jess, who's a union leader in Melbourne, if I'm correct, Jess. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to do her presentation on her survey findings that we did. So over to you, Rachel.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel, and today I'm gonna publish the finding of the survey for the student work life project. Next slide, please. I will present this finding in form of C-chart and art, which is our method using for along our history. In Melbourne, we surveyed 23 students, and the method of the survey, we use street interview, online interview, phone interview, and the age group is between 13 to 23. 57% is like 15 to 17, and 23% from 18 to 19 years old. And Talia, who with us today, is one of participants in the survey. So in terms of the difference of the school links difference, we have majority is public with a 76.5% and private school for 23.5%. The motivation for working, majority 76.2% is work for money. The following 19% work for experience. And what the industry do you work in? We have a diversity and in this, but majority is hospitality with 42.9%. Also hospitality in barista, 9.5%. And then other like some students do tutoring to other students with a 28.6% and 14.3% from retail. For the position, majority of the student is casual and 23.8% is part-time. How many hours do you work? This one, I think distribute equally to between no working to 5 hours, and then 5 to 10 hours, and then 15 to 20 hours, and 10 to 15 hours. So that distribute equally. For the work right awareness, what is surprising me is majority of the people, more than half of the people, not aware at all about work right. Seem like they don't even know what this means. And then 23% know a little bit. For example, one of the girl I interviewed, she will only know about the name of it, but because people mention about it here and there, but she actually don't really understand what that means. And 20.5% know a basic, so they know a little bit meaning of it, but they don't really know how to apply that in their, their life, or how to, speak about that or negotiate about that. Yeah. When I was asked if do your school have relevant workshop to educate about work rights, it's 72.7% say no. They don't have any workshop or education. Normally they ask family, or when they go to work they will ask college or something like that, but not from the school. And then the rest is like divide into yes, no, maybe, and just 9.1% is have the uni workshop. Regarding to if they feel supported at work, 50% say sometimes, 13.6% say no, and then 36.4% say yes. And now time for the story. I think this is more excited part and interactive part, that you can listen the story from the young people. So I gonna give the mic back to Frank.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for that. We're going to play a video from Harlan, who's here in Perth. So just to give a brief description of what happened to Harlan, he works at a Muay Thai gym, but during the school holidays, he picked up some work experience. There was an instance where the person who he was doing work experience for was doing a job because they're Sparky. They were doing a job at the Muay Thai gym. However, he was asked to do a job that was a little bit sketchy. And if he got injured, his Muay Thai job wouldn't cover him under insurance. And also, the person who he was doing work experience for didn't cover him under insurance either. Harlan then explained that I asked him why he didn't say no to doing the sketchy job, and then he said he just wanted to make a good impression, because he wanted an apprenticeship with the Sparky. So I've also found in our surveys that a lot of the students would do things like that to make a good impression for their managers, or people who they're working with, just to be on their good graces. So Sheesh, if you could just play the video of Harlan, please.
Can everyone hear the sound?
I didn't hear any audio.
Yeah, can hear.
Cannot see the video.
Hi, Ashish. Inali.
So can you tell me how old you are?
15.
Cool. And where do you go to school?
I work in high school.
Alright. Is that public or private?
That's private, public school, sorry.
Public school?
Yeah.
Alright. And do you work as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I work in something like that.
Cool. How many hours do you work?
3 hours a week.
In a week?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I get horrible hours and it's class-based hours.
Oh, okay. So you want more hours, but you can't really get them.
I mean, I can, but I just don't get them.
Okay, that's fair enough. I know we interviewed you for the work rights
Correct.
survey. Yeah. Back then you told me that you didn't know any work rights or anything. Have you learned any in between?
No.
No, still not?
No.
Okay, cool. And like, do you check your pay slips now? Or
No.
no, still no.
I can't see.
That's fair. You told me that you did some work experience, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was that for?
That was through school with electrical. So as a sparky, I was working with an electrician.
Okay, awesome, cool. And then was that like for 1 week, 2 weeks?
That was for the school holidays for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, cool. And then you told me that there was one that you were doing a job for the Sparky at the gym, right?
Yep.
Okay. And how did that go?
So that was a bit sketchy sometimes.
A bit sketchy.
Yeah.
What happened?
So basically, on the top of a mezzanine floor, there was no fencing or anything, and I was working on top of a ladder, working at heights, working above my head, without being insured for that specifically. There was another one where lifting a ceiling above my head, on top of the mezzanine floor, on top of the ladder again, which was heavy above my head, not insured for that because it's not electrical based.
So on the mezzanine floor, so that's obviously like a second floor, and you're saying that there's no railing.
There was no railing on top.
No railing. So you're on top of the ladder. So if you fell, you would have basically fallen 2 stories, essentially.
Yeah.
So if you busted your head open or something, then you wouldn't have been covered by the electrical's insurance or your other workplace
On the
insurance.
electrical's insurance for electrical only,
Yeah, right.
not for lifting ceilings above my head.
So why didn't you tell your worker no?
Because I wanted to help and I didn't feel like telling him because I wanted to get on his good side.
Okay, so you didn't say no because you wanted to make a good impression with your.
Yeah.
And what's that? Why do you want to make a good impression with someone you're doing work experience with?
Because I love getting the pressure.
Oh, okay. So you had to. And if you told him no, then you think he would have just told you to get lost, essentially?
Oh, maybe, but it's always good to help.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Hi everyone, my name is Anne and I'm currently.
So can you tell me?
Yes, so with Harlan's story, I found it related to a lot of the young people that we surveyed. A lot of them would just do sketchy things just to be on their manager's good side. So, I mean, I've even done it in the past, working at Kmart, trying to impress my manager by climbing onto like a storage shelf. But I just did that, just to get extra shifts and things. And a lot of youth don't seem to be concerned with their work rights purely because they're expected to just do what they're told. And if they if they refuse, then they won't get an opportunity to do that job again or get shifts. I'm going to ask Ashish to play Arn's video. If you could please, Ashish.
Hi everyone, my name is Anne and I'm currently a YER at Melbourne West CW, and I also work as a dental assistant at a dental clinic outside of uni. So today for our May Day webinar, I would like to speak about my own experiences of being in a wage theft scenario where me and my co-workers as dental assistants have been underpaid for a very long time. So I started working there at the end of 2022, and I think I got paid $20 an hour back then when I started. And then every 6 months they will give us a raise in our pay, but which is only like $1 difference. And then after a year and a half, I'm currently paid $24 an hour, which is very low compared to the minimum wage for dental assistant according to Fair Work. So back then, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about what's the minimum wage, and then I didn't even know that cash in hand was a sketchy kind of way to get paid, because I'm an international student as well. So when I started working in Australia, I don't think I was prepared much about the knowledge of, Fair Work and guidelines before embarking into, a career or studying working even as a part-timer. So according to Fair Work, so I was supposed to be paid $29 an hour as a dental assistant, and that's for pay point 1 without qualifications or previous experience. So that was just an entry pay rate. And then from the 3rd month of work with some experience, and obviously if we have qualifications and stuff, we are meant to get paid much higher. But basically after 3 months of work, we were supposed to get paid at least $32 an hour as a dental assistant in Melbourne, Australia. But then obviously the difference between the actual amount of money I was paid and the minimum wage that was shown from Fair Work website is really, it's a big difference. But then because me and my peers, we sort of needed a job to secure our stable income to pay off rents and bills and uni fees. So we have been silenced for a while. And then there is another red flag that I would like to speak about, is that we just found out that dental clinic, they actually don't hire people with qualifications and experience. They only hire like new graduates or people with no previous experience or international students. And we think that the reason for why they do that is because they believe that because we are not knowledgeable of the legal rights and our work rights, as well as, pay rates and other, guidelines, so they could do whatever and they could underpay us. So this is why I think that it is really important to advise young people and students about their work rights, as well as guidelines before they start working, just so they feel more prepared and oriented about what they deserve, and especially if they're working in a condition where it needs to be safe for them as well. So I think it is really important to sort of advise them about all of the guidelines. And that's the story from me. Thank you so much for having me as a guest speaker.
Over to you, Fred, for your presentation.
Thank you, Ashish. I'm just going to share my screen to share Perth's findings of the surveys. If everyone can see that. Perfect. So in Perth, we surveyed 51 students, ages between 12 to 18. 30 of the students were from public schools, 21 were from private schools. When we asked them about their work rights, 80% of them said that they don't know any of the work rights. That could be basic things from, you know, like knowing that they're allowed to have a pay slip, or knowing that they're allowed to cancel a shift within a certain amount of time and knowing what that time is, knowing how many hours they're allowed to work in a week without going over the standard. They don't know any of that. The other 20% knew some rights, and only 1 or 2 people knew quite a few. So in this graph, we're showing the amount of hours and how many students work them. So 4 students worked 0 to 5 hours a week. 5 to 10 hours were worked by 20 students. The same amount of students, so 20 students were working 10 to 15 hours. And then 6 students were working 15 to 20 hours a week. And only 1 student was working 20 to 25 hours a week. So 90% of the students said that they were working for wants. 10% of them were working for necessities and experience. When we were asking them about the wants, it's almost like a need for them to work for wants now. Most of them were saying that their parents can't afford for, you know, supplies if they wanted to do an after-school sport, or if they needed some shoes to go out on the weekends or things, their parents couldn't afford those small things. A lot of parents also can't afford, you know, movie tickets nowadays, because movie tickets are, I think, about $22 here in Perth per person. So a lot of them, when they're working for once, is just to cover those basic things. And parents can't afford to give allowances for students now. So 38 out of the 51 students felt that they weren't supported at work. Being supported at work, but what we mean by that is, if, let's say, you didn't know how to do a certain job and you asked your employer for it, you felt like you might get in trouble because you didn't know how to do it. You know, you're not receiving the training or anything like that. Or if they were late to a shift because of a valid reason, they'd still get in trouble, or their shift got cancelled last minute. Things like that. The management just didn't care at all. I will now hand it over back to Ashish to. Oh, it's not you, Ashish, it's Talia, right? To share. I'll hand it over to Talia to share her story. Once I figure out how to stop sharing my screen. So. Ashish, help me, please. You're the tech lead. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Cool. I'll hand it over to Talia.
Hi, I'm Talia. I'm 17 years old, studying BCE in Year 12 currently. So I have been working ever since I was about 15 years old. And I've done a balance in school life with work. So yeah, I feel like I was really driven towards work because of the idea of money, and because I sort of wanted to help out, you know, taking independence of myself and sort of just maintaining my own life. So with that, I took the initiative to apply for a lot of jobs all at once, and that sort of led me to at some point work 3 jobs while studying. So that was in about year 10. I was working in a hospitality industry, retail, and then 2 retails. And I kind of realized that because I had worked so much, it sort of just forgotten about my studies in a way. Like I was so driven, or I was so focused on the fact that work kind of needed me in a way. Like I was needed to be there. If not, you know, I would lose my job or something. So I kept going, and I didn't really think about that in the back of my mind. I was told by other people, you know, Talia, you're missing out on school. Do you think it's because of work? Do you think you need to cut a few hours from work? All that stuff, by my teachers, by my parents, sisters, friends. And I just didn't want to believe it. So I kind of was just still drawn into, you know, getting money and surviving for myself. So I was experiencing that throughout year 10 towards the end of year 11. And then as year 12 came by, I was kind of sat down by a lot of my coordinators at school, saying, you know, do you want to keep doing school? And, you know, I was always in love with school. Like I loved studying and everything. And it kind of brought me down to notice that I was not doing as good as I was in the school area rather than I am at work. And I kind of took a stance, and it was a really big decision for me, I can't lie, to cut my hours at work. One of the reasons was because of the idea that I was driven by the money. Another idea was that I was scared that my manager wouldn't think that I am as reliable because I'm cutting so much hours in work. And that idea or thought came to me because of the fact that most of my workmates or my work members, I noticed that they are more studying TAFE, or VCAL or VM. And so that kind of gives them more of the time to have more hours at work because they aren't fully studying and doing schooling. And so I kind of like stepped back on that, and I mentioned to the person who does my rosters, and I said, you know, I really want to prioritize my schoolwork, and I feel like, you know, doing 23 hours a week is just, it's not good for me. Like I can't be going to school 5 days a week and then also going to work 4 days a week. It's just not going to fit for me, especially if I want to do good in school. So yeah, so now I've cut down to only 12 hours. So that's roughly about either 3 shifts or 2 shifts a week. And that's given me actually a lot of time to focus more on my studies. However, I feel like a little bit less motivated to go to work, because I feel like now that I'm not there as much, they just feel like I'm just any other crew member and not somebody who used to be so enthusiastic for work. But yeah, I feel like, you know, the experience for work is really good, and that schools should like acknowledge the fact that, you know, there are kids who want to work for their own independence and experience, but I feel like it just isn't like given awareness as much at school. So I feel like that's a good thing that should be brought up to create a better work-life balance.
Thank you so much, Talia, for sharing. I think a lot of students would relate to your story. It's yeah, definitely difficult to go through. Thank you so much. I know the Adelaide team could only join us for a little bit, so thank you guys for joining us. I know you guys have to go. Hopefully see you guys soon again. See you all. No worries. I'm going to invite Yolanda to share her story, if Yolanda is ready.
Sure. So yeah, I am also in year 12 and also 17 years old. And I guess I just kind of want to share like my experience as a young worker, especially in like a hospitality kind of realm. So I work in a cafe right now, and um it's actually not bad work. Like I know there's a lot of people that have really bad experiences, especially in hospitality, because it's so high pressure. But honestly, like my work's not too bad. Um, but an important thing to note also is that there's always going to be like something wrong with your workplace, especially as a young worker. Like I remember one of my baristas telling me, she was like, yeah, everywhere I've worked in like 10 different cafes. Like there's always a problem with every single one of them. But I think an important thing to know is like when the problem becomes problematic. You know what I mean? When it's not just like a small thing, when it's actually starting to affect you and your well-being or how you're being treated in the workplace. And I guess for me, like a big part of that is kind of just comes down to my age, because I'm still in high school. Like I still kind of feel that pressure to like be more like subservient maybe, and just kind of like just follow what other people tell me. And it's kind of hard for me to feel like I can stand up for myself when I don't feel like I'm being treated right or I don't agree with something, which I guess it kind of bothers me because I've always been somebody who's really like outspoken, and I'm like more than happy to tell people off for treating me wrong. But I think in this sort of aspect, like it's so professional, you just kind of want to trust the process. But I think it's really important to kind of understand like it's not about like it's your work and you choose to work there. So it's important to understand what you deserve. Also in that aspect, I was really lucky at school because we used to have like presentations of people coming in to tell us about our workers' rights, because I think there's a lot of people who work in fast food, and I tried really hard to avoid that. Because it's just I've heard so many horror stories of people getting exploited, and I think it's really important to especially know in that way, because it's so easy to get into fast food and it's so also so easy to get exploited in that aspect. So I think it's really important for schools and for ourselves to go out of our way to explore what our rights are and what we deserve in the workplace also. But yeah, for me, like it's not that bad. But I have noticed like a few things that kind of just like sit the wrong way for me. Like sometimes I feel like my boss is like a bit stingy, and he's made us like pay for like broken dishes and things like that. Which I don't think that's like a law against that, but it's just it irks me a little bit. But yeah, I think it's just really important for us as young people to just like kind of have that bravery to just say no, and just say that's not right. Like you can't make me do that. And if you get fired, like you get fired. There's a billion other jobs out there for you that you can explore and that will treat you so much better. So do not waste your time or your well-being on a job that treats you like rubbish because you're a student. Yeah, that's it for me, I guess.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. And I definitely agree with that. I think a lot of us were raised to, if we're at a workplace, just keep your mouth shut, do what you're told. Doesn't matter what happens, do it. But at the end of the day, you could get hurt, or worse things could happen to you by just not saying no. You could overwork yourself. I definitely agree with that. So thank you so much. Ashish, is it myself next? Jason Chu, if you could please introduce. Thank you.
Thanks. Now it's we'll introduce Jessie. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, you're pronouncing it right.
Okay, Jessie. And yeah, we're just very grateful to have you here with us today and hear all these stories and also share to us about the work you do at ASU. So Jessie Colling has a rich background in hospitality, events, and harm reduction. They began their career working at Crown Casino, focusing on events and conferencing. Over the past 8 years, they have dedicated themselves to volunteer work with Harm Reductions Victoria, DanceWise program. Here, they led a team of peer educators at major music events, creating safe spaces for attendees under the influence of substances. Their commitment to community services transitioned into a professional role at CoHealth Inner Space, where they served as a community development worker. In this capacity, they manage both a drop-in space and a needle and syringe clinic, providing crucial support to the community during their tenure at CoHealth. They encountered and successfully navigated significant challenges, including addressing unethical management practices. Their steadfastness and integrity in these situations led to their role as a union delegate for the Australian Services Union, where they have since been instrumental in resolving conflicts and advocating for employee rights. Thank you, Jessie and myself both work at CoHealth, but I work with the refugee and asylum seeker team in a casual capacity. Yeah, and I also work in harm reduction with North Richmond Community Health. So like we're kind of peers.
Amazing.
So thank you, Jessie, for joining us. And I'm happy to you can, if there's anything I missed, let me know, but just you can start by explaining what is ASU and how you became involved with them.
Yeah, sure. So ASU, for people who don't know a bit about how unions work, a union is essentially a human rights advocacy group, and they specialize in employment rights.
Yeah.
But they're membership based as well. So they don't go and help, they don't specialize in helping everyone. They tend to focus on the people who are paid members. But they also do lobbying campaigns that help the wider community of workers of the different industries that they're in.
Yeah.
So I was a part of, as Achut mentioned, I used to be part of Crown Casino, and I was a union member there. And as you probably can imagine there, and you may have heard in the news about the types of stuff that Crown gets up to, there's a lot of shady things going on all the time. Now, being a big company with a lot of quite a significant HR department and a lot of different legal practices, there was a lot of protections in place, and the union was actually quite strong because there was a lot of people involved in it, and there was a really high membership base because of the croupiers or the dealers. What that meant was I became acquainted with how the union sort of worked and fought back against managers doing very shady stuff, and which happened a lot, as you can imagine. And I got a lot of experience with a lot of managers who talked in very insidious ways, to put it the most lightly and nice way possible, I'll say. Because of that experience, when I came to work in health, and started to work in CoHealth, my first sort of area manager was not, just had a lot of ways of speaking that reminded me of a lot of managers that I had previously. And they had a lot of very negligent ways of addressing problems. And it came time only a few months into the job where I had an issue around miscommunication, and it was the error from management's part was put back on me, and I had to suffer the consequences. And because I'd experienced this before, I knew how to bite back, and I knew how to read all of the different rules in terms of the award and the enterprise agreement. I was able to have a meeting with HR and the union delegate, but I was able to take over and state my case in a way which worked in my favor, essentially. The union delegate that was with me said, we really want you to become part of the team and help other people who have a skill for this. And so I did. And then I got to meet the rest of the Australian Services Union, which mostly represents people who work in local councils and local government, but they also do community health as well. Yeah, so that's how I got involved.
And just, you know, explaining, like, if people, you know, just talking about wage theft in general and what can people do about it. And, you know, how can we bring awareness, you know, to the issue in general?
Absolutely. So I think something that the previous speakers touched on, which I thought was brilliant, was the fact that knowledge is actually your greatest weapon. Arming yourself with knowledge is everything in this game. The reason why people get screwed over is because they don't know what the rules are. They don't know that what they're being asked of them, what's being asked of them, is against the law or against the rules of just the company itself. And that's really mainly what happens most of the time. The majority, almost, I'd say 99% of the cases that I've ever experienced, both personally and who people I've helped with, are just simply because the managers don't even know the rules that they're breaking. And so no one else below them knows what, and so no one is actually aware that everyone's breaking the rules together at the same time. There's no one to correct it. And in some industries, the rules are quite complicated. So this can happen frequently, and it might be at a small company, so there's not a lot of oversight. In the bigger companies, it happens less, but the ways they cover it up when things do go wrong are a little bit more insidious. So knowledge, definitely the big part of it. And what that means is knowing the rules of your company. So that means the policies. That means knowing how your award works. Now, for those of you who don't know, for every industry, there's an award, which is a set of rules of how employment works for your industry and for the set of roles that exist in that industry. And those are the base rules of how everything should work. And that goes to everything from how many days before they need to give your rosters out, all the way to exactly what they need to do to tell you how to get your leave, and to answer that statement about the plates thing. Absolutely not. They cannot charge you for breaking any plates because that is work equipment and that is covered by their insurance. So these are things that people don't know. How you're going to know this and how you're going to find this stuff out is reading it yourself, but that can be very difficult, especially if you're in a new industry. The best way is actually to contact your union. There is a union for every industry. You don't need to be a member to ask them questions. You can just send them an email. You can give them a call. They've all got call centers, and you can just go, hey, I've got this problem. I don't know what to do about it. Can you point me in the right direction? And maybe all you need to be pointed to is the right page and of the award, and you can go from there. The other thing that I will say is, as the major thing that you need to do in all issues of conflict that you ever have, is get everything in writing all the time. Anytime you have a disagreement with your boss or any colleague for that matter, write it down and email it. Even if just emailing it to yourself is enough to have a timestamp on it to say, this happened. I'm acknowledging that this happened. Here's the witnesses, or this, or you. Sometimes it could be as simple as just confirming that you asked me to do this today. So for example, with the plate thing, just want to confirm for my records that you requested that I am charged for a plate and that I need to give you some money for this. Could you please send the receipt back to this email address? All of a sudden now you have an evidence paper trail. Amazingly, what happens when you start doing these small little things is the boss tends to just go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I don't want to do this anymore. All of a sudden, as soon as there's a paper trail involved, most bosses just go, I probably better figure out what I'm meant to be doing here. Because as I was saying before, it truly is negligence. The majority of the issues are negligence and people just covering their tracks after they've done something wrong. People just going, I don't know what is meant to happen. It's easier if I just ask this person to do it this way, not buy the proper protective equipment for this particular job, or just ask the young apprentice to do it. The young person who doesn't know that they're not meant to, that won't say no. And that will help. And that will just solve this problem that I have and make my life easier in the present moment. But it is always comes down to negligence and laziness a lot of the time. It's very rare that someone's making a very large campaign to hide a lot of different, like a huge amount of wage theft. In terms of specifically on wage theft, though, a story that I've had from my specific work is usually in our work at CoHealth, we have 8 different enterprise agreements, which is so an enterprise agreement is a thing that happens beyond the award. It's extra workers' rights that are bargained with the employer, with the union. So the union sits down with the employer and their lawyers, and they argue it out over weeks to months, sometimes years, and ask for more rights above the award. Because we're in a community health agency that has multiple different professions, and each of those professions have different enterprise agreements and awards, it gets very complicated. So the chances for errors are huge, because there's no one person who can know all of those enterprise agreements off by heart. So these errors happen all the time. It's expected that they're going to happen all the time. There's only a limit to how frustrated we can get over it, because the resources of a community health organization versus maybe a hospital is going to be very different. However, it's then going to be on us, knowing that our organization is going to make repeated errors, to keep a track of what's happening to us in terms of our pay. We're constantly watching whether we're getting the right pay rise. We're constantly watching whether we actually had our leave clocked and taken away. So maybe we had a sick day, and did it count it as a sick day, or did it count it as annual leave? All those little things are usually what happens when it comes to wage theft. They're errors that stack up over time because people are not watching and they're not paying attention to what's happening, and they're not checking every week. And that's a hard habit to get into. It's something that I'd recommend that you do with your colleagues. You talk about what's happening with your colleagues, because your colleagues might have a thing that happens to them, an issue with their pay, and it might be something that's already happening to you and you just don't know about it. So constantly talking to your colleagues, going, have you had this issue? Do you know how this works? Does this make sense to you? Can be a great way of getting that knowledge to empower yourself and not get into a situation where you have to go through years worth of pay slips and having a battle with Fair Work just to get a few $1,000s that they didn't pay you. Now, that is an option, going to Fair Work, but it is really the last option that you want to go through, because it is a lot of work for not much reward in the end, a lot of the time. So you want to try and get on top of it beforehand. I think the last thing that a couple of things that I wanted to say in terms of tips in a workplace is practicing professionally saying no. This is something that's really, really hard to do, and you will not be good at it when you start. You just have to practice. You have to do it badly in order to do it well later. What that looks like is, say, for example, someone's asked you to climb the shelf to go get something high. You might say to them, I don't think that's safe, or I'm not really sure about that. Can we please do something else? Can we please get something else to do that? If they insist, and you can say, I am not comfortable with this, do you reckon we could call the other boss? Because the majority of you, the likelihood is you're going to be working in a big company, and there's going to be more layers and layers and layers of bosses, and you can always ask to escalate it. That's always an option to you. And you can just say, I'm uncomfortable. Could we please ask this person? I feel like there's a better way to do this. You can't get the likelihood of you getting in trouble for asking for more advice and escalating a problem. If you do get in trouble, really, this is a good sign. This is not a good place to work. That's for sure. But otherwise, you're just going to, and the worry is going to be that you're making an enemy of your immediate boss, And that can be hard. Those are hard things to navigate, and finding those words in order to say no is going to take a lot of effort and practice. Another big one is going to be when you're asked to stay late after you're getting paid. What I'd recommend in this way is trying to use like positive words and sentences to push back. So thank you for the offer for the extra hours, but I've decided that I'm not going to take them and I'm going to go home. But I'll see you tomorrow. You don't have to snap back. You don't have to fight. You can just thank you for the generous offer of giving me extra hours that were unplanned, but I don't need them. I'm going home. I'll see you tomorrow. And it can be really hard. It's going to take a lot of practice, and you're going to have a lot of jobs that involve, unfortunately, bad people that will yell, or they'll bully and they'll harass. And the only way to combat that is to stay professional and hold your ground and ask for help. In your industries, that might be joining a union, or that might be contacting HR and getting everything in writing. And yeah, to sum up, it really is about knowledge. It really is about understanding your enterprise agreement or your award, understanding what the rules are, and constantly talking about it with people. It's a great conversation to have at work, because a lot of workplaces thrive on people not knowing, including not knowing what other people are getting paid. It's a very big one, and that goes through all different ages. That's not just young people. People not talking about their wages allows the employer to pay everyone different wages for the same job and push them all at different rates. But when everyone talks and everyone is transparent about what is happening to them, that secrecy, it being removed, takes away that boss's power and gives it back to the workers. So yeah, that's what I have to say. So.
Thank you, Jesse. But before we dive into Q&A, like if anyone has questions for Jesse or the other, speakers, can you just briefly tell us about, how people can join ASU and like what is the age requirement? Because we'll be sending like, an email with like all the links and everything.
Sure, I can. I'll send that to you to be able to send out to your network with the links and everything. But it's as simple. Every union is pretty simple. There's always a website, and there'll be a join page with like a sort of a PDF form that you fill out all your details, and you'll go on a mailing list. In terms of, just to make it clear to everyone, there's always going to be a membership fee. The fee would usually be between $10 to $20 per week or fortnight, depending on the union. And a lot of that is tax deductible at the end of the year.
Yeah, I heard that you can claim it back. So actually we just have one more story. We've got Fred's story, and then we can possibly go into a Q&A for everyone. Thanks, Jesse.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. I appreciate all of that, and I definitely agree with the knowledge is power part. As in our surveys, one of the questions, or two of the questions, what we asked is, one is, do they know what super is and how it works? A lot of them said no. The other question was about award rates. I know myself that the awards have certain rules on how much you get paid and legislation and all of that. So a lot of the responses to that was no as well. So it seems that with the young people, knowledge definitely is not on their side when it comes to the work field. I'll jump into my story and try and make it quick. So before joining YCW, I was a support worker. I was working on shift with a difficult client. It was common for him to attack the staff, and we've gotten to know him quite a lot. And one day we were bringing his mattress inside because something happened, and we had to put it outside to dry. So we tried to prompt him to help us bring it inside, and my supervisor was on one end. He was holding the other end the participant was holding one end. As they're going to the house and trying to put it into his bedroom, he kind of got stuck. So I said to him, okay, I'll come and help you. As soon as I touched the mattress, he just kind of snapped and then grabbed my arm, was trying to bite my face, ripping my arm back and forth. Resulted in me having 2 torn tendons and 1 tendon dislocated at a spot. So I had to get surgery for that. Before getting surgery, I was having to pay for all the doctors and scans and things myself, as my workplace was taking the most amount of time they could to fill out the paperwork and send it through to their insurance. While they took ages, I was trying to figure out why they were taking so long. But the person who was doing it was the assistant manager. And when I told them, look, you only have a certain amount of days to submit the paperwork. And they went over that time limit, but I couldn't go to HR because the HR was the daughter of the assistant manager. So I couldn't really go to HR to, talk badly about the assistant manager not doing a job. After that, I tried to contact Fairworks. Fairworks said that they didn't deal in support work sector in Perth, so they couldn't help me with any advice or anything. I tried to call WorkCover. They said they couldn't help me because no claim was put in yet. I didn't belong to any union, so I didn't really call them at all at first. Then what happened is after they accepted the claim and put the paperwork through, I had to go and get scans done. Then my workplace would play games by not telling me the company name of the insurance. And I would go to scans at SKG. SKG said, look, they need the name of the insurance company. Otherwise they can't give me the scans. So I couldn't get the scans because work wouldn't give me the name. I tried asking for the name a lot of times, and I have the right to the name, but work acted like it was a confidential thing that I wasn't allowed to know the name. Which obviously is not the case, but they're trying to play that game. After maybe 4 hours, SKG was nice enough to just let me do the scan. We got the results, and my workplace would keep playing small little games like that, just not doing their part. And they selected everything for me. So the rehabilitation manager and all of that. The rehabilitation manager that they chose were very, very invasive. Like I would show up to the doctor's appointment and they would be seeing the doctor before I'd even gone in. They would just basically try and hammer me to get back to work. And I said, look, I haven't even been fixed yet. Like I'm still broken. I can't work. After they kept playing those small little games and being so invasive, I decided to go to a lawyer because I still had more things to get checked out, but they wouldn't allow it. I went to a lawyer and eventually they said, oh, you're allowed to choose who your rehabilitation person is. And I said, no, I didn't know that at all. I thought I just had to take what's given by WorkCover and all of that. After changing my WorkCover or the rehabilitation person, it was smooth sailing from there, getting everything I needed. They advised me to contact the union and to try and contact NDIS as well to tell them about the company not doing their part as well with the reporting, because as the client attacks staff, that has to be reported to NDIS. So they didn't do that either because they didn't want to lose their funding for the client. Yeah, so after a while, I'm now recovering, had my surgery in December, but they're still playing small little games by, trying to stop me from claiming all the doctors' appointments and things like that. Because there was a fair while I had to use my house savings to pay for all the scans and the therapists and things like that. So yeah, that's my story. I think we will now open up the Q&A. So if anyone has any questions about the presentations or someone's stories, now would be the time.
Hi, I have a question. First of all, hi, I'm Jess. I am the Youth Engagement Coordinator here at YCW in Sydney. So thanks everyone for sharing all these experiences and this very useful information as well, Jessie, the results from the surveys as well. So this is for Rachel. So I wanted to ask about like all this time that you were working a lot of shifts and you were basically like doing a lot of work and prioritizing that. What made you change? Like, was there like a point, a turning point for you that it was like a wake up call? Because I know many people tried to talk to you, like you mentioned your parents, the coordination team at school, like everything. But what was the turning point for you?
So the turning point for me, I think it was when I went to school for a full day and I was just so overwhelmed about school. I was stressed. I had just had a late weekday shift. So I was working late the night before and I went to school and, you know, someone had told me, oh, you know, we've got this coming up today. Did you know? And I had no idea because I'm not always all there at school because I'm always worried about, oh, I've got work after, I have to do this, or, you know, I got up late because I had worked so late. So because I was just so overwhelmed and I kind of just started avoiding school because I was already missing so much, I kind of just closed all doors to everybody. I tried to just keep all the noise out, like everybody who was trying to mention to me, you know, you got to stop working. And because of that, it made me recognize like how much work has been calling for me. Like I'll have like 3 shifts or 4 shifts a week, and then I'd get asked, hey Talia, can you work today at this time? And then they would give me an incentive by saying, you know, you get free food. They'll say that. And I had like a group chat message with me and a couple of my really close friends, and I'd send them like, hey, like, you know, they asked me to work this shift. And then, you know, they just kind of just told me like, you know, Talia, we can't cover that shift for you if you're not going to work it. But, you know, you can always say no, like you're already trying to focus on your studies. Because I had always told them, you know, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling to balance my work and school life. And then, yeah, they always said, you know, Talia, you can always say no. I just never really knew how to say it. So instead, I took that shift. And then after that shift, I had put up, because we use Tanda, it's a rostering app. And I had put in my availabilities for, you know, I can't work past 9 p.m. on a weekday, or I only want to work from Thursday to Sunday specifically. So yeah, now I only get about 12 hours or 3 shifts a week, you'd say, or 2 actually. Yeah, 2. And then I'd usually pick up 1 if I'm really desperate. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Talia.
Thank you for that question. Did anyone else have any questions or queries?
I just have a question for Taylor. So just regarding, you know, the plates thing, I think it's just really wild to me. I was just thinking like, was that like a regular occurrence? And, you know, has it happened to like other co-workers too? Is it Taylor or Yolanda?
I think you read me, yeah. That's okay. Yeah, it has happened before. Like I think like my coworkers know that it's wrong, and I've known a few coworkers that have had to pay for them. Like even my manager had to. And we were talking about it one day. We were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like not a good thing, but
Mm.
I just don't think that we want to really push for anything, which I don't know. It's really bad. It's really bad. But I think we're all just a little bit scared to like go through that conflict to like
Yeah.
really express that. But I think
Yeah.
I really would like to talk to my manager about it, because I know that if anybody would
Yeah.
talk to my boss about it, it would be her, and he would probably listen to her more than to anybody else. And
Yeah.
probably her job would be a lot more secure because we only have her
Mm.
as our manager.
Mm.
So,
But
you
do
know,
you
but it
guys
has
have like
happened.
regular team meetings or things like that?
Not really team meetings, but usually my boss will just put on the group chat like notes that we have to take down of like, don't forget to do this and this and this.
Mm.
And one time he mentioned on there, he was like, oh, by the way, if you break a plate, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess in a way I've got that evidence of like that's
Yeah.
kind of shady, but I think it's just really hard to just kind of put that out there and say, you know, like that's wrong, because yeah, I think we're just all a little bit scared to do it, but I
Yeah.
would like to start pushing for a bit more justice, I guess, or something.
Yeah. Thank you, Yolanda. Yeah, I said, yeah, it's very hard to really,
Can I
push
just
back.
add
Yeah.
on to that, it should just
Yeah.
an observation. I've worked in a lot of different restaurants in different countries as well. And another common thing that's very similar to that will come up for people who work in hospitality is you might have to pay for things out of your tips.
Mm.
And that is also illegal. That's your money. That's your gift that was given to you by a client.
Yeah.
And when someone says, oh, you have to pay for the staff party or have to chip in because you poured your beers wrong and you wasted a whole keg or whatever it is that you do,
Yeah.
that is them stealing your money. That's what it is. So just be wary that there is no real job out there that makes you pay for all the things that you damage. As long as you worked within the rules, as long as you didn't break the law,
Yeah.
the job pays for it.
Yeah.
Wait, so is it actually like illegal to make your workers pay for broken like equipment or whatever? Or is it just like
So I would literally
regulation
just
or
be
something?
saying to the boss, bill me and make sure it's written down. Like, so bill me via email and I will be CCing in Fair Work. And just watch how he just stops immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of courage to be able to do that.
And
And it
I
might take a
guess,
lot of working with your colleagues to say, hey, we're creating a little bit of united front and we're backing each other
Yeah.
up on this.
Yeah.
It is a
And I
lot.
think, sorry, Jesse.
No, go for it, Ashwin. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, I was just saying, like, I would really, encourage you next time it happens to just say, like, look, it's, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I just think it's, not part of, like, yeah. So just try saying no verbally. And then if you're comfortable in the group chat, like, can you, explain that a little bit to us more, like, what are the policies around this? Because we're a bit confused here, because just play dumb, So let them explain it. What is it actually that, they want, like in the group chat? So like, just to say that just so we're all on the same page, can you like write this on the group chat or like email it to all of us? What is the procedure when we break a plate? And it's difficult, but I practice a lot, and yeah, CC, yeah, Fair Work, as Jesse's saying as well.
Could start as simply as
Mm.
you, as Achut said, you're starting as simply as I just am uncomfortable with this. That is always a great conversation. So I'm just uncomfortable and I'm unsure. I'd just like to get someone else could you please run me through where it says this in the policies
Yeah.
or where it says this in my contract.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they have actually written it into the contract itself, and you can then go to the union and say, to a union or Fair Work and say, hey, I think there's something illegal in my contract that wasn't meant to be there.
Yeah.
Could you please check this? Because someone will know.
Yeah.
There's an expert on everything, and they will know. And if they don't know, they'll know the person that does. There's always someone that can answer the question.
Yeah, I just don't think you guys should continue paying for broken equipment. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Just a bit of a different topic, just to share some interesting findings in our surveys. I think Rachel in Melbourne found the same. So from the ages of 12 to 16, a lot of the students weren't really concerned with the work rights. They were more concerned about the money and doing what it needs. But from about age 17 to 18, they were getting more interest into the work rights knowledge. I think maybe because they got tired of being exploited and having things like this happen to them. So that's just something interesting I thought I'd mention. I don't know if anyone has any more questions.
Sorry, I just wanted, maybe it's not a question, but to add to what was told about Jesse was saying that it's very important to have everything in writing. And just regarding, I had a lived experience regarding bullying at the workplace. Very, like, many different situations that happen. And I just wanted to highlight that if that is happening to anyone, it's very important that everything is recorded. Like if it's recorded, like even on a Word document saying this date at this time, this person came in and did this or said this to me, or whatever happened, that it's very important to have it there, because usually that is required for you to make like a formal report with HR or with whoever you need to make it. They will ask you to do that. And for me, in that instance, it was really hard to remember like all the instances when it had happened. So I eventually got to do it, but that it's very important, like just highlighting, even in bullying situations, that you put everything in writing. And if there was anyone present, that you also put this other person witnessed whatever happened, and that it's recorded. And the second thing is that when you're getting a new job, if there are any policies in place, that you really thoroughly read them. If you have any questions from the beginning, you ask, like, what does this mean? Get that response also by writing if possible, or if not, sending your response in writing. And because in this instance, for the bullying situation, they wanted to do a different, like they wanted to solve it in a different way. But because I had read the policy, I was like, this goes to the CEO, this doesn't go to my manager. So please, it's you read the policies, and then when you have something in writing, it's much hard. You make it harder for the people that are trying to abuse or take advantage of you. So yeah, read the policies thoroughly, know that, and if you're unsure, read them again, and know the procedure before you go and do anything, because then that can give you some leverage and, well, like more power, kind of. And then that's it.
Thank you so much. Just cautious of the time, I'll quickly ask Rachel just to read our judgment. If you could pull that up, Ashish. And then after Rachel reads that, we'll go into our action.
Yes, hello, everyone. So we done the we done the story part, and from our survey, the couple of things that we conduct and thing that we conclude into, first of all, people have limit of knowledge and work rights. Students may be unaware of their workplace rights, potentially leaving them vulnerable. And the workforce preparation gap, public school could potentially strengthen program to help students understand their right and prepare them for entering the workforce. Balancing work and study. Striking a balance between work and study can be challenging for students. Unawareness of this challenge can lead to difficulty managing both. Financial pressure. Financial pressure might influence students to prioritize work over academics, potentially impacting their overall well-being. And last, importance of soft skill. Developing soft skills such as assertiveness and boundary setting is crucial for navigating the workplace effectively. Thank you. And for the art part, I give the mic to Fred.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, so as we mentioned, our judge part has kind of found that, you know, a lot of students are working now while studying. It's become more than usual. Before, a lot of students were able to just finish school, go outside, do extracurricular activities, you know, have fun, go to the shops. But now, straight from school, they go to work, and their knowledge of their work rights is pretty poor. There isn't any help for them to understand it. So the actions that we're doing at the moment, so we are conducting surveys to try and, you know, find out more about the students and why they're working and things like that. So if anyone is interested in helping us conduct more surveys, if you know where we can pass them along to, or asking anyone you know who's a student and working to just fill out a survey. We are wanting to make a program for students so they can learn all their work rights, whether it's implementing it in a school type structure, even an etiquette class, like Jesse mentioned, how to say no correctly in the workplace or how to act. Things like that will be useful for students to learn in school, so when they go to a workplace, they can do it efficiently. If anyone has any other ideas about actions, if anyone would like to mention them now.
Yeah, my name is Nalin. I'm actually a mentor. I just want to, I've gone through and I've been listening to this. I'm operating out of Melbourne. I was just listening to what Rachel was just saying with regards to balancing a student's the curriculum and whatever that he or she has to do, and also the work. I guess that's an important area. So if we can, maybe we can do some training to that effect, where people who are interested can go through a session of how to balance work and studies. Because if you guys can log into a website called the sundayreader.lk and type in how to balance a military career while doing competitive sports, that article is there, but it will also give all these people an idea of how to balance between studies and work. So I think that's an important area.
Certainly, thank you so much.
I think, yeah, one thing that I want to reiterate, like Jesse was saying, like discussing wages. And, you know, we recently, like our team started discussing wages quite a lot. And then, you know, we found out like there was 3 people, you know, paid, you know, differently for doing the same actual job. And like they took that information to like HR and just, you know, so they can review their pay again. And a lot of the time, you know, when you come with the evidence and the facts, you know, they will listen, I guess.
Could I make a couple of just comments, please? I'm on this Zoom by accident. Stephen Gigat's and the Australian Cardine Institute is more of my scene, and I thought that was an ACI webinar this evening. But I'm immensely grateful for the chance to listen to, especially you youngsters. 60 years ago, I was working in the steelworks down at Port Kembla as a young metallurgy trainee, and we're asked to do things in that steelworks, which were, when I look back, like just life-threatening and super dangerous. And the OH&S people today would go crazy if they knew what we were asked to do. So it's refreshing to hear you, the articulate way the young people speak. By way of action, I suppose this is just to reinforce or to affirm what's been said by so many of you this evening, that in no particular order here, to prepare your words. You know, if you've got to front a boss, and it is, as been said by Jesse, it's going to be immensely difficult in just personal relationships to front someone on a difficult issue. And Stephen Covey, the great author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, his fourth habit is think win-win. Is there any way I can say something that's where the boss is not going to be crushed, or even though we might need crushing, that, but the bottom line is to prepare my words carefully. And you were talking about, some of you talking about writing things, to have things in writing, and I understand that, but even I write down the words that I'm preparing to say. And the other thing about it is to have the support of your peers, and a lot of the union movement is sort of an institutionalized support, but a forum such as this evening amongst, you know, is a wonderful, wonderful network. And there may be, you know, just people, there's a lot of chemistry in relationship, as you would well know. There might be people that you've met or you've heard or heard again this evening that you can network with. And so that if you have an issue, a difficult issue, to have that personal human support and to get ideas and to bounce those ideas and to use the Zoom even just in ones and twos. So yes, I just want to thank you very much. I'm here by accident, but I think it was a real blessing to be edified by what you're all focused on. So stay close to one another. I suppose that's my bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy you could join us and see what us young people are working on. Anyone else have anything they would like to share?
I just wanted to give an update. You saw the video of Anne earlier, who shared her experience of being a victim of wastage. So just wanted to give you an update in terms of what's happening. So once Anne kind of like realized that she was a victim of wastage, she started having that conversation with her fellow workers. And now when we were in Melbourne, 2 weeks back, and we started having some conversation about what can be done about this situation. So group of them came together, and now they are thinking about writing it or approaching it more formally to their employer. So I really kind of like appreciate their courage, and then it's really commendable that they are now coming together as a group and uniting to raise the voice against the injustice that they are facing. And so I think learning from me from there is, if you are sharing, if you feel like you are being treated in an unjustful way, whether it be from a wage perspective or from your own work perspective, talk to people, collect people, share with co-workers, collect the, I think bring everyone together and then speak out. So I think that's the way it should go. And I'm learning that from how Anne and her team in Melbourne are doing it. So just wanted to share the update that's happening. Unfortunately, she could not be here. She would have shared that story, but got a permission from her to share the progress on her behalf.
And also just to add to that, Ashish, because I saw, I think was it Anne and Stephanie? Yeah, so like I saw them 1 week ago, and then I think one of them told me like they found, a similar job but was paying more. And then one was in the middle of like, negotiating her wage. So I think it shows the power of like, uniting together and like discussing your wage. So
Thank you so much for that. I think we've reached the end. If anyone would like to know anything more or have any queries, please feel free to reach out. Yeah, thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time.
and thank you, Jesse, for taking time from your busy day to come and join us.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll be in touch with you, everyone, shortly with regard to an update. And like Fred and mentioned, one of the action for us has been in Perth and in Melbourne. We're already starting the student work-life program, which is more about educating young people about their work rights and empowering them. If anyone in different states, I know that we have young people here, Tala, and then Sudeep from Sydney, and then Yolanda from Canberra. If you want to initiate something, then we could catch up online and then do something about it. Because like what we heard, the exploitation of a worker is Australia-wide, and we need to take an action, against it. So we'll be in touch with you shortly. If you are interested to be a part of it, if you could put your name and details, just your name in the chat box, we'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Maybe Joe can start something in Japan. You never know.
I forgot Joe is in Japan, my God.
Yeah.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Joe.
Thanks, everyone. I'm signing off. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, Joe. Thanks, still on mute. And thanks, Talia, and all the youngsters for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Right. All right. I'm going to end the record, and well done, everyone. See ya.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.